Our key mission at the Commission now is turning to helping businesses put those work practices in place that can give them as much business activity as possible as we go through the easing of restrictions. This means including social distancing, personal hygiene, separation between employees in the workplace and with customers, but also being able to respond quickly and to return the workplace to normal after there has been any hotspots. This is really important, Laura, because it is being able to do this safely and using the health advice to make sure that people can stay safe in all of those small businesses and cafes and restaurants that will help us get our economy going quickly.
You did outline these new guidelines yesterday. This is the new normal that we'll be living in for quite some time. But do you expect that all businesses will be able to comply with these new standards, or do you accept that some might find it very difficult to continue doing business under those circumstances?
There's a minimum number of customers that a lot of businesses will need to be able to pay the electricity bill, keep the air conditioners on, and to pay staff. So it will take quite a bit of innovation by a lot of businesses to work out how they can include those health requirements and health guidelines into their business. But I think that if we work at this in the same way that we've worked at suppressing the virus, we can accelerate that. And, for example, in cafes and bars and restaurants, we should limit the number of servers that are in one section of the bar or one section of the restaurant, put up screens when necessary, mark out spaces, space tables out, spread meal times over longer periods. And big businesses can spread start and finish times to reduce the load in the streets and on public transport. So I think if we all work together and businesses think about how they can include that social distancing, personal hygiene into their business, then we'll get people back to work quickly.
What businesses can and will open first?
Well, what we'd like to see is that all those small businesses that have been forced to shut down, so cafes and restaurants, those sorts of businesses, all the small service businesses in our economy, we'd like to see them up and running. But of course, that means that a lot of our big businesses need to come back into their offices and start working from offices. So I think we'll have a work from home, work from office rotation system and split for some time. And now it's about trying to get people to get back to their normal spending patterns and enjoy the easing of restrictions. Of course, we can't overdo it, Laura. We need to make sure that the same discipline we've used to control the virus that we do going forward. So download the app, make sure that we maintain those personal hygiene and distancing so that we don't infect other Australians around us.
Now, you briefed the National Cabinet, as I understand it, on the need for a proactive and consistent support package, if you like, for businesses, or at least an approach. What support will government need to provide once JobKeeper and JobSeeker expires?
The most important thing is that clear, consistent messaging to businesses so that they know what's expected of them in each of the jurisdictions. We've got the WorkSafe Australia website there as a resource centre to help businesses tap in and understand what they can do and what they need to do within their business. And the NCCC will put out a COVID-19 toolkit to help businesses with all the other parts to make sure they know how to access things. So regulators in the states and federally need to work with businesses and try and help them understand the rules and understand what they need to do to accelerate approval processes and really do the things that we would normally have done over a long period of time, do those quickly. Don't cut corners, but just expedite those processes so that we can give businesses that boost they need.
The government wanted to see this as a hibernation strategy so that businesses could come out of this and bounce back. But given the impact on businesses, both large and small, and really the slowness in coming out of this, keeping in mind that there could be a second wave, that there's no vaccine, is that bounce back really realistic?
I believe it is, and as the Treasurer said this morning, we now have to turn our mind very quickly to how we can accelerate getting people back to work, because that's the key measure that will get our economy going again. In terms of a second wave, I think what we've learnt out of this suppression phase of the virus and the great work that all Australians have done in following the health advice has set us up and trained us very well to take care of any hotspots that occur. So this is not about reintroducing restrictions, but rather by identifying, isolating and controlling any hotspots when they come up, so that we don't need to have restrictions across the broader economy and broader community.
Nev Power, out of crisis, there is always opportunity. Do we need better taxes?
We need incentives for business to invest here in Australia, and particularly those businesses that have perhaps not been able to flourish in Australia previously. We currently have a low Australian dollar, we have disrupted international supply chains, and we have very low cost of funds. And a lot of focus now turning back internally from our big investment institutions. This is a great opportunity for businesses to look at how they can re-establish business or grow their businesses in Australia. We know that some businesses will be slower to recover from this, where they involve international travel, for example, but there will be some businesses that will be able to come back very quickly, and we'd like to grow and accelerate those.
We are a trading nation. The Treasurer has warned against any kind of protectionist mentality creeping in here in Australia. But do you accept that we maybe need to be a little more self-sufficient in some areas?
Yes, I believe we do and we can. As I said before, the low Aussie dollar, the disrupted international supply chains, and a focus on what we need to do to be self-sufficient with things like medical equipment, with critical farm chemicals, with component parts, with our petroleum and energy needs. All of those, I think, are important lessons for us to learn and say, how can we do that going forward? But let me hasten to add, I'm not talking about subsidised businesses that rely on government handouts to survive. We need to develop globally competitive businesses and use this current environment to get them up and running and to establish them, and then make sure that we are competitive globally.
And just quickly, there's a bit of an anti-China sentiment certainly swirling around at the moment. Are you concerned about that? And is it just the reality that China is going to be a big part of Australia's economic recovery?
China is a very important trading partner for Australia, and that's a mutually beneficial relationship. And we need to continue to work constructively with China to make sure that that continues. And I believe that will and can. The relationships that we have with China are built around many, many years and decades of important trade and business activity. And provided we approach that in the right way, then we can continue to develop that trade.